Starting out here at Lake Winfield Scott, going to go for about a 6.3 mile loop on the Slaughter Creek Trail that intersects part of the way with some of the Appalachian Trail. But we're right here at the head of the trail where your parking area is, and there's Lake Winfield Scott, and there's Remy. So getting ready to go for a little hike today, about 1,700 feet of elevation change over the course of about 6.3 miles. We've been on this trail many times before, so we're really looking forward to it. Trailhead now, Wanda's walking ahead there with Remy. Going to take a quick sharp turn here to the right and get this party started. So this is the trailhead. You can see here it says Slaughter Creek Trail to the Appalachian Trail is about 2.7 going up the Slaughter Creek Trail, but then there's also, you can go up the Girard Gap Trail, which we're gonna come back that way as in a loop, but that's only 1.2 miles to Girard Gap. This map provides an overview of our route today. Starting at Lake Winfield Scott in the top left, we're going to proceed up through the valley along the Slaughter Creek Trail, intersecting with the AT up near the Duncan Ridge Trail as well. We'll then come southbound on the AT to Girard Gap, where we will then connect back down into the Girard Gap Trail and Lake Winfield Scott to complete the route. You'll notice these two blue blazes on this post, and obviously you could go that way and go directly across the trail, which Wanda's going the wrong way. Oh. Those two blue blazes indicate that we're going to the left and up the hill here. So Wanda and Remy will head up that way, and I'm going to join them now. This is just a short little jaunt up here until we get to cross this same creek here. So there's the trail that we're coming up, and you can see here down the hill just a very little bit, that's Slaughter Creek. And we'll give you a little background on that as we get a little further into the hike. But water seems to be running pretty well right now. We've had a fair bit of rain, and I'm sure it's resulting in the creek being considerably higher than normal. It's the same Slaughter Creek that I talked about just a few minutes ago, but a little bit of a bridge here that we're going to have to walk over. Check that out. Probably more than a few trout in here somewhere. Beautiful. Here's where we come out of that trail, and we're on a little road here right in the middle of the park, and you cross the road and pick up the Slaughter Creek Trail here directly across the road. If you were going up to the Girard Gap approach to the Appalachian Trail, you'd go down the road here to the right for about a quarter of a mile. But we'll be coming back up that way shortly. This is very typical of the Slaughter Creek approach, where it's just a very steady incline the whole way for almost 3 miles before you hook up with the Appalachian Trail. But you also have a lot of the mountain laurel. In a minute here, we're going to go through a tunnel of mountain laurel. There's a new tree down there we haven't seen before. Looks like it happened relatively recently. You can see basically the tree fell over out of the side of the mountain. But the trail workers have already been out here and they've cut a notch through this tree, so it makes it pretty easy to get past. Oh, actually we've got 2 trees down. So, but again, they've been out here and they've cleaned it up pretty quickly. That's a big old oak. Look at that wood. And again, right there. Pretty amazing. But that tree looks like it was rotted for quite a while. And probably just a good wind in one of these storms kind of knocked it down. Just a little further on the trail, you can now see that we're starting to get up above Slaughter Creek. That'll run the whole parallel to the whole trail this first half of today's hike. But it looks like a pretty nice flat area down there that you could camp on if you wanted to. But we're having a little bit of a challenge keeping up with Remy today. Here's some of the mountain laurels that we were talking about, where you're walking through a bit of a tunnel. But again, trail is in very, very good shape. A little cool today. We started out back at the Jeep, it was 39 degrees. It's only supposed to be a high of about 43 today, but we're dressed for it. Wanda's actually got her puffy jacket on now over a couple of layers. I've already got rid of mine. Last thing we want to do is start to sweat out here, but we'll continue on down the trail here. Looks like we're getting ready to cross a little tributary here. You're going to have to pick him up.
Come here, Remy.
And just be careful going across there. This will be one of several little crossings here that we're going to be doing. Water's running pretty good. Little side creek. Guarantee you that water is cold. But as we get further into this, there's some that are pretty interesting, because what they've done is they've created a little sluiceway with an old log on many of these that kind of act as a water diverter. But we'll keep on going here. Sorry if there's a lot of movement in the camera. I'm filming this with my iPhone and I don't have the steadiest hands to begin with. But it's a little experiment today. Next little crossing here, a little bit bigger creek feeding Slaughter Creek, but a nice little bridge to go over. Okay, continue to be walking down the trail here. But today's also a little bit of an experiment. I'm a type 1 diabetic, have been for more than 30 years. And for the last 20 years or so, I've been on various insulin pumps. For the last 4 years, I've been on an insulin pump from Tandem called the T-Slim. And I just recently upgraded to a new version of that. And in the last week, updated to their new version of the software called Control IQ. Now, the reason that's advantageous for me as a type 1 diabetic, because what the software does is it actually takes the readings from my sensor that collects my blood sugar every 5 minutes and sends it to my pump. The software has logic built into it. And that logic compares my blood sugar and then adjusts my insulin levels up or down depending on the trend that it expects to see in my blood sugar 30 minutes out. Now that advanced warning or proactive nature of the adjustments is key, because insulin, as it's injected even by a pump, is not available to the body for up to 30 to 60 minutes. before it really starts to act in the full dose. So this will be a real test. My starting blood sugar today was about 110. So it'll be interesting to see here how it tracks as we go through this hike today. One of the challenges, based on my experience over the last several years hiking with Dennis, is that matching up my carbohydrate with the insulin and the activity levels is usually a pretty big challenge. And I'm really hopeful that this new software will give me a tool that will help me manage that on these hikes a lot better. So we'll see, and I'll report back when we stop for a break here and some lunch as far as what my blood sugar is actually doing. Check in with you in a bit. Now here we're actually hitting a little bit of an ascent here where there's actually steps with stones that have been put in place by the maintenance crew. Makes it a lot easier. Remy's just flying up them. And there's Wanda June. Still pretty cool today. I'm going to stop filming so I don't trip here and fall. A little warm, Wanda?
Yeah, those steps kind of did it.
Okay, well, we'll throw your puffy jacket in the backpack. It's good not to start up a sweat. You can
I'm wondering if I could take
you can
this
get pretty
off.
cold really quickly.
I think I'm going to take.
Come on, Remy. Come on. All right, you can stop. This gives you a little bit better perspective of that logging trail that I was talking about. You can clearly see how wide the trail is here as we continue up. Now we're actually, to just demonstrate, if you look here across the valley, the creek area is surrounded by mountains. And then the creek, which you can probably hear in the background here, is down amongst all of those trees. But this was all logged out way back, probably around 1900, I would think, maybe a little later than that. But this is one of the roads that they use to get the logs out of here. So we're here along the trail, and this is the first of a small campsite that is right up against the Slaughter Creek there, at least a tributary of the creek. But fairly flat down there, plenty of trees. Actually, the spacing looks pretty good for some hammocks, but a tent would be absolutely no problem at all. Plenty of fresh water. You can see there's a small little fire ring down there as well. Looks like it's been used. This might be a good option. We're about 1.5 miles in from the trailhead, so it'd be an easy hike in here and a decent place to stay. Got them using logs as a sluiceway, and this isn't a good example of that, although this one, the top is rotted off. But you can see how the water is going across the trail through that log. Blood sugar alert! We're about 1.8 miles in. I just checked my blood sugar. And according to the sensor, I'm at right about 101 right now, which is excellent, actually normal. When I looked at the history on the pump, the Control IQ software had turned my insulin off about 30 minutes or so ago, and then started it back up about 10 minutes ago. So what that means is that it actually had sensed that my blood sugar was going to drop and reduce the insulin, but then had eventually shut it off. But now is back on, so we're good to go. Back on down the trail. Here's another one of those logs. And you can see the water flowing there through the open part of the log, but then it kind of goes down underground for the most part, and then comes out over here. And then finally feeds down into Slaughter Creek. Okay, here's a sign along the side of the trail. Blood Mountain Wilderness, part of the Chattahoochee National Forest. And obviously managed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And then there's the trail. Nice little stream coming down the side of the mountain. You can see a few little waterfalls as it flows down. Now in the summertime, that's barely running. And right now it's flowing pretty good. And this will eventually feed down into Slaughter Creek. What I did want to show you though, as I pan up here, can't see the top of the mountains anymore. The cloud layers come down a fair bit, and it's actually started to sprinkle. But since it's above freezing, we're okay. It's probably about 42 degrees right now, so as long as it just doesn't start raining any harder than that, we're going to do fine. This is that same water source that we just showed you a little bit ago, but obviously coming down out of the springs in the side of the mountain here, because we're not far from the very top. But as it comes down, you can see it kind of gathers a bit and then heads down. Now what's different, this is a spot that we normally stop at on this hike with this rock here, because it's a nice place to sit down and take a break. But since last summer, there's two trees down here, two big hardwood trees have broken part way up, so it must have been some wind that forced these trees down, because it wasn't their root system. But we're about 2.25 miles in. We're about half a mile from the intersection with the AT. I'm just down a little bit from where I just showed you that water crossing at. And there's a nice little campsite here. Not a lot of space for a lot of tents, but definitely some good tents for hammocks. But real close to the trail, nice fire ring. And again, about 2.25 miles in. Come on, Remy. You better get going. You better get going. Get. You better get going. There he goes. You better save your energy, buddy. See, there just beyond that blue blaze is the Slaughter Creek Trail that we just came up. Now as I pan around here, this is the intersection with the AT. So you can see how the trail goes up. If you look a little further down the trail, there's actually another blaze where those guys are coming down. But we're going to hang a right here. Down, we're going to go southbound on the AT and head back down to Girard Gap. So we were going to stop here for some lunch, but with the rain and it getting a little bit colder, we're just going to keep on moving. Trail glucose alert. I just checked my blood sugar on my meter. It's 93, so it's holding steady. My basal insulin is off at the moment. So again, it's adjusting as we go along here. We're trying to decide whether or not we stop and have some coffee and some lunch. I think we might go a little further down the trail, try to get down a little bit in elevation and see if we can't get rid of some of this rain.
See the fog?
Check in with you later. Okay, just came down the AT again, heading northbound from here, gets you up to Blood Mountain. But this is also where the trail intersects with what's called the Freeman Trail. And the Freeman Trail shoots off here to the right and actually goes around the base of Blood Mountain. It's an alternate route to going up and over. In addition to that, there's a couple of campsites up here on this same gap that are also pretty nice. But we're going to be hoofing it pretty big here now, trying to get out of this cold. Okay, so here we are at Girard Gap. You can see the trail on the AT northbound comes from back that way. This is the gap. There's a little bit of a camping area here as well. But if you notice on this sign, it also says Girard Gap Trail. That's where we're going next. It's going to take us back down to the Girard or to Lake Winfield Scott. Just checked my blood sugar again a few minutes ago. It's still 93, so holding steady. It's been a great experiment. A little bit of a road walk here after we come back out of the woods. It's about the last, 4 or 5/10 of a mile. We'll duck back into the woods for the last little bit of it.
Yeah.
But this is where the last time we were up here with some friends and hiking this, we took a wrong turn on the road. But we've successfully navigated it this time. You can see right up ahead here where we've gone full circle. You'll see a couple of blue blazes there on that tree on the left. That marks the trail where we came out this morning and walked straight across the street and up the Slaughter Creek Trail. So over there to the right, just over Wanda's shoulder there. But now we're just going to duck back in here for just a couple of minutes and we'll be back at the car. Here we are back at the beginning. Total of about 6.3 miles. We'll give you a wrap up here in a minute.